So, hello everyone and welcome to Poetry Out Loud 2020. What we are going to do first is just a mic check for each of the reciters. So they're just going to come up in a row and practice using the mic stand and just say their name. And if you just want to applaud them as they say their names to get that little extra energy going, we can do that. All right, so come on down. So just go in order. So come on up. We'll do one right after the other. You don't have to wait. So this one. So you do that one. This one's mine. You could just go. Yeah, so we can just go.
Natalie.
All right, then you go that way. Woo!
Stephanie.
Diana.
Skyler.
Lindsay.
Helen.
Charlie.
Caden.
Megan.
Jessica.
Angela.
Savannah.
Column.
Owen.
Cynthia.
Allison.
Abby.
Amanda.
Max.
Dia.
Michael.
Maya.
Matthew.
Okay, so with that said, welcome again to Spotswood High School's 2020 Poetry Out Loud competition. My name is Annie Rasco, and I will be your MC tonight. Poetry Out Loud is a National Endowment for the Arts and Poetry Foundation program which began in 2005. Millions of students across our country participate in this program, and it culminates with the national finals this spring in Washington, D.C. Poetry Out Loud begins in the classroom, with classes participating across each grade in which students select poems and begin the process of reciting and ultimately performing the poem. After class-specific competitions, the finalists advance to our school-wide competition tonight. Our schedule tonight is as follows. Warm-ups, we did, check. Mic test, done. Round one, about to happen. Then after the 25th contestant says their poem, we will take a brief 5-6 minute intermission, and then we'll get back to round two, and then the announcement of the winners. So you can take your group pictures and post them to all social media sites. Poems will be judged according to physical presence, voice and articulation, dramatic appropriateness, evidence of understanding, overall performance, and accuracy. All of these students have been given a permission slip to attend the field trip to the regional competition at the Two River Theater in Red Bank on February 4th, assuming there is no other conflicts, in which our school champion will compete against school champions from our state region, Region 3. If our school champion wins, they will proceed to the statewide competition, typically held at TC&J in March. From there, the winner among the state finalists will head to Washington. Our judges include the wise, the Whitman-like Christopher Gozick, the woman who knows Shakespeare in and out, and if you don't do your homework, she will give you the meanest death stare, Suzanne Fredericks. The woman who probably knows everything about history. You say, you know, how many U-boats were sank in World War II? She'd have an answer for you right away. Miss Hallie Guerin. Another knowledgeable historian who also has done wonderful voiceover work and has such a supreme knowledge of movies, Mr. Len Hollander. All right. A new addition to our staff, but not a veteran teacher. She is extremely bright and smart, and we're lucky to have her as part of our staff, Miss Michelle Levine. The first four were judges, then Miss Levine is our accuracy judge, so she will be checking for how accurate they say their poem. And then last but not least, we have tabulator on the master spreadsheet, Mr. Williams. And all of the judges are in the back, so you could take a look at them at some point so you know who they are. You probably have also seen them at conferences. All right, so a special thanks goes to the students who participate, the administrators and Board of Ed who made this possible, the fabulous, wonderful English department, and all of the people who discovered an appreciation of poetry through this experience. Let's get started. Our first poet is Natalie Wambui.
I will be reciting How to Triumph Like a Girl by Ada Limon. I like the lady horses best. How they make it all look easy. Like running 40 miles per hour is as fun as taking a nap. Or grass. I like their lady horse swagger after winning. Ears up, girls. Ears up. But mainly, let's be honest. I like that they're ladies. As if this big, dangerous animal is also a part of me. That somewhere inside this delicate skin of my body, there pumps an 8-pound female horse heart. Giant with power, heavy with blood. Don't you want to believe me? Don't you want to lift my shirt and see? A huge beating genius machine that thinks, no, it knows it's going to come in first. Thank you.
And also another person I'd like to thank, so while they're tabulating up their scores and things like that, I wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Andrew Zaborny and SPSN for providing the jazz tunes and the microphone tonight. So round of applause for them. Our next poet is Stephanie Yarnell.
I will be reciting Choices by Tess Gallagher. I go to the mountainside of the house to cut saplings and clear a view to snow on the mountain. But when I look up, saw in hand, I see a nest clutched in the uppermost branches. I don't cut that one. I don't cut the others either. Suddenly, in every tree, an unseen nest where a mountain would be. Thank you.
Our next poet there's a lot of sibling poetry rivalry going on tonight, and one of our sibling rivals is up, Diana Rosinski.
Author's Prayer by Isla Kaminsky. If I speak for the dead, I must leave this animal of my body. I must write the same poem over and over, for an empty page is the white flag of their surrender. If I speak for them, I must walk on the edge of myself. I must live as a blind man who runs through rooms without touching the furniture. Yes, I live. I can cross the streets asking, what year is it? I can dance in my sleep and laugh in front of the mirror. Even sleep is a prayer, Lord. I will praise your madness, and in a language not mine, speak of music that wakes us, music in which we move. For whatever I say is a kind of petition, and the darkest days must I praise.
poet is Skyler Prevel.
Fate by Carolyn Wells. Two shall be born the whole world wide apart, and speak in different tongues, and pay their debts in different kinds of coin, and give no heed each to the other's being, and know not that each might suit the other to a T, if they were but correctly introduced. And these unconsciously shall bend their steps, escaping Spaniards and defying war, unerringly toward the same trysting place, albeit they know it not, until at last they enter the same door, and suddenly they meet, and ere they've seen each other's face, they fall into each other's arms upon the Broadway cable car, and this is fate.
Our next poet is Lindsay Michaels.
I will be reciting The Day by Geoffrey Brock. It hangs on its stem like a plum, on the edge of a darkening thicket. It's swelling and blushing and ripe, and I reach out a hand to pick it. But flesh moves slow through time, and evening comes on fast. And just when I think my fingers might seize that sweetness at last, the gentlest of breezes rises, and the plum lets go of the stem. And now it's my fingers ripening, and evening that's reaching for them. Thank you.
So just by a show of hands, how many of you in the audience have had to memorize either a poem or something from school? Right? So look at them. Also, keep your hands up if you had to hear them, or you practice they practice their poem for you over and over and over and over again. There we go. Okay, good. So they're doing a great job so far. Our next poet is Helen Iskander.
I will be reciting Acquainted with the Night by Robert Frost. I have been when acquainted with the night. I have walked out in rain and back in rain. I have outwalked the furthest city light. I have looked down the saddest city lane. I have passed by the watchman on his beat and dropped my eyes, unwilling to explain. I have stood still and stopped the sound of feet when far away an interrupted cry came over houses from another street, but not to call me back or say goodbye, but further still at an unearthly height. One luminary clock against the sky proclaimed the time was neither wrong nor right. I have been when acquainted with the night. Thank you.
Our next poet is Charlie Johnson.
What It Does by David Ferry. The sea bit, as they said it would, and the hill slid, as they said it would, and the poor dead nodded agog the poor head. O topmost lofty tower of Troy, the poem apparently speaks with joy of terrible things. Where is the pleasure the poetry brings? Tell, if you can, what does it make? A city of a man that will not shake, or if it shake with the splendor of the poem's pleasure. Thank you.
Our next poet is Caden Dagon.
I will be reciting Football Dreams by Jacqueline Woodson. No one was faster than my father on the football field. No one could keep him from crossing the line, then touching down again. Coaches were watching the way he moved, his easy stride, his long arms reaching up, snatching the ball from its soft pockets of air. My father dreamed football dreams and woke up to a scholarship at Ohio State University. Grown, now living the big city life in Columbia, just 60 miles from Nelsonville, and from there, Interstate 70 could get you on your way west to Chicago. Interstate 77 could get you down south. But my father said no Buckeye in his right mind would ever want to go there. From Columbus, my father said, you could go just about anywhere.
don't know about you, but my football dreams are that the Giants actually make it to a Super Bowl. No? Not the right crowd. Okay. Next, our next poet is Megan Kasper.
Advice from La Miranda by Deborah A. Miranda. Each grief has its unique side. Choose the one that appeals to you. Go gently. Your body needs energy to repair the amputation. Humor, phantom, pain. Your brain cells are soaked with salt. Connections fail unexpectedly and often. Ask for help, accept help. Read your grief like the daily newspaper. Headlines may have information you need. Scream! Drop kick the garbage can across the street. Don't feel guilty if you have a good time. Don't act as if you haven't been hit by a Mack truck. Do things a little differently, but don't change a lot. Revel in contradiction. Approach grief with determination. Pretend the finish line doesn't keep receding. Lean into the pain. You can't outrun it. Thank you.
If you are enjoying the poems tonight and you look on the list and you're like, hey, I want to know the rest of that poem, or I don't remember what that poem is, I made 2 extra copies, and they are going to be at the front desk during intermission. First come, first serve, if you would like a copy of Anthology of the Poems tonight. But our next poet is Jessica Peltz.
After the Winter by Claude McKay. Someday, when trees have shed their leaves, and against the morning's white, the shivering birds beneath the eaves have sheltered for the night, we'll turn our faces southward, love, toward the summer isle, where bamboos spire the shafted grove and wide-mouthed orchids smile. And we will seek the quiet hill where towers the cotton tree and leaps the laughing crystal rill and works the droning bee. And we will build a cottage there beside an open glade with black-ribbed bluebells blowing near and ferns that never fade. Thank you.
Our next poet is Angela Garafalos.
Catch a Little Rhyme by Eve Merriam. Once upon a time, I caught a little rhyme. I set it on the floor, but it ran out the door. I chased it on my bicycle, but it melted to an icicle. I scooped it up in my hat, but it turned into a cat. I caught it by the tail, but it stretched into a whale. I followed it on a boat, but it changed into a goat. When I fed it tin and paper, it became a tall skyscraper. Then it flew into a kite. Then it grew into a kite and flew out of sight.
Our next poet is Savannah Fedon.
A Song in the Front Yard by Gwendolyn Brooks. I've been in the front yard all my life. I want a peek at the back, where it's rough and untended and hungry weeds grow. A girl gets sick of a rose. I want to go in the backyard now, and maybe down the alley to where the charity children play. I want a good time today. They do some wonderful things and have some wonderful fun. My mother sneers. She says, my mother sneers. She says that Johnny May will grow up to be a bad woman, that George will be taken to jail soon or late. On account of last winter, he sold our back gate. But I say it's fine, honest I do. How I'd like to be a bad woman true, and strut down the streets with brave stockings of night black lace. Thank you.
Our next poet is Colum Donnelly.
I will be reciting The Barnacle by A.E. Stallings. The barnacle is rather odd. It's not related to the clam or limpet. It's an arthropod. The one doesn't give a damn. Cousin to the crab and shrimp, when larval it can twitch and swim. and make decisions. Tiny imp that flits according to its whim. Once grown with nothing more to prove, it hunkers down and will remain stuck fast. And once it does not move, has no more purpose for a brain. Its one boast is, it will not budge, cemented where it chances sink. Sclerotic, stubborn as a grudge, settled, it does not need to think. Thank you very much.
Our next poet is Owen Haner.
I will be reciting Stopping by Woods on Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. Miles to go before I sleep. Thank you.
Our next poet is another sibling rivalry, only in poetry, not at home, I'm sure. Cynthia Rosinski.
A Barred Owl by Richard Wilbur. The warping night air having brought the boom of an owl's voice into her darkened room, we tell the wakened child that all she heard was an odd question from a forest bird, asking of us, if rightly listened to, who cooks for you, and then who cooks for you. Words, which can make our terrors bravely clear, can also thus domesticate a fear, and send a small child back to sleep at night, not listening for the sound of stealthy flight, or dreaming of some small thing in a claw, borne up to some dark branch and eaten raw. Thank you.
Our next poet is Allison Schulman.
Enough by Suzanne Buffum. I am wearing dark glasses inside the house to match my dark mood. I have left all the sugar out of the pie. My rage is a kind of domestic rage. I learned it from my mother, who learned it from her mother before her, and so on. Surely the Greeks had a word for this. Now surely the Germans do. The more words a person knows to describe her private sufferings, the more distantly she could perceive them. I repeat the names of all the cities I've known and watch an ant drag its crooked shadow home. What does it mean to love the life we've been given? To act well the part that's been cast for us? Wind. Light. Fire. Time. A train whistles through the far hills. One day, I plan to be riding it.
Our next poet is Abby Johnson.
The Arrow in the Song by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I shot an arrow into the air. It fell to earth, I knew not where. For so swiftly it flew, the sight could not follow it in its flight. I breathed a song into the air. It fell to earth, I knew not where. For who has sight so keen and strong that it can follow the flight of song? Long, long afterward, in an oak, I found the arrow still unbroke. And the song, from beginning to end, I found again in the heart of a friend.
Our next poet is Amanda Sullivan.
The Owl by Edward Thomas. Downhill I came, hungry and yet not starved. Cold, yet he within me that was proof against the north wind. Tired, yet so that rest has seen the sweetest thing under a roof. Then at the inn I'd food, fire, and rest, knowing how hungry, cold, and tired was I. All the night was quiet, buried out except an owl's cry, a most melancholy cry. Shaken out long and clear upon the hill, no merry note nor cause of merriment, but one telling me plain what I escaped and others could not. That night as in I went. And salted was my food and my repose, salted and sober too by the bird's voice, speaking for all who lay under the stars, soldiers and poor unable to rejoice. Thank you.
Our next poet is Matthew Milroy.
I Heard a Fly Buzz When I Died by Emily Dickinson. I heard a fly buzz when I died. The stillness in the room was like the stillness in the air between the heaves of storm. The eyes around had wrung them dry, and breaths had gathered firm for that last onset when the king be witnessed in the room. I willed my keepsakes signed away, would portion of me be assignable. And then it was there interposed a fly, with blue, uncertain, stumbling buzz, the light between you and me. And then the windows failed, and I couldn't see to see. Thank you.
Our next poet is Maya Yanchuk.
Let It Be Forgotten by Sara Teasdale. Let it be forgotten as a flower's forgotten, forgotten as a fire that once was singing gold. Let it be forgotten forever and ever. Time is a kind friend, he will make us old. If anyone asks, say it was forgotten, long and long ago. As a flower, as a fire, as a hushed footfall in the long forgotten snow. Thank you.
Goats by Naomi Shahad Nye. In icy fields, its water flowing onto tank. Would they huddle together, warm bodies pressing? It is the year of the goats or the sheep. Scholar debating Chinese zodiac, follower or leader. Oh, lead them to the warm corner. Little ones toward their bulkier bodies. Lead them to the brush which cuts the icy wind. Another frigid night swooping down. Aren't you worried about them? I asked my friend, who lived by herself on a ranch of goats, far from here, from town Osana. She shrugs. Not really. They know what to do. They're goats. Thank you.
Our next poet is Dia Patel.
Clear Night by Charles Wright. Clear night, thumb top of a moon, a black-lit sky. Moon fingers lay down their same routine on the side deck and the threshold, the white keys and the black keys, bird hush and bird song, acacia flower falls. I want to be bruised by God. I want to be strung up in a strong light and singled out. I want to be stretched like music wrung from a dropped seed. I want to be entered and picked clean. And the wind says, "What?" to me. And the castor beans with their little earrings of death say, "What?" to me. And the stars start out on their cold slide through the dark. And the gears notch and the engines wheel.
After the Winter by Claude McKay. Some day, when the trees have shed their leaves, and against the morning's white, the shivering birds beneath the eaves have sheltered for the night, we'll turn our faces southward, love, towards the summer isle, where bamboos spy the shafted grove, and wide-mouthed orchids smile. And we will seek the quiet hill, where towers the cotton tree, and leaps the laughing crystal rill, and works the droning bee. And we will build a cottage dear, beside an open glade, with black-ribbed bluebells blown near, and ferns that never fade. Thank you. Someday.
Our first poet is Natalie Momboy.
I'll be reciting Epitaph by Katherine Phillips. What on earth deserves our trust? Youth and beauty, both are dust. Long we gathering are in pain. What one moment comes again? 7 years, childless, married past. A son is born at last. So exactly limbed and fair, full of good spirits, mean and air. As a long life promised, yet in less than 6 weeks, dead. Too promising, too great a mind, in so small room to be confined. Therefore, as fit in heaven to dwell, he quickly broke the prison shell. So the subtle alchemist with Hermes still resist. The powerful spirit's subtler flight, but 'twill bid him long good night. And so the sun, if it arise, half so glorious as his eyes, like this infant, takes a shroud, buried in a morning cloud. Thank you.
Our next poet is Stephanie Yarnell.
Love Lives Beyond the Tomb by John Clare. Love lives beyond the tomb, the earth, which fades like dew. I love the fond, the faithful, and the true. Love lives in sleep, 'tis happiness of healthy dreams. Eve's dew may weep, but love delightful seems. 'Tis seen in flowers, and in the even's pearly dew, on earth's green hours, and the heaven's eternal blue. 'Tis heard in spring, when light and sunbeams, warm and kind, on angels' wing, bring love and music to the wind. And where is voice, so young, so beautiful and sweet, as nature's choice, where spring and lovers meet? Love lives beyond the tomb, the earth, the flowers, and dew. I love the fond, the faithful, young, and true. Thank you.
Our next poet is Diana Rosinski.
The Arrow in the Song by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I shot an arrow into the air, it fell to the earth, I knew not where. For, so swiftly it flew, the sight could not follow it in its flight. I breathed the song into the air, it fell to the earth, I knew not where. For who has sight so keen and strong that it can follow the flight of song? Long, long afterward, in an oak, I found the arrow still unbroke, and the song, from beginning to end, I found again in the heart of a friend.
Our next poet is Skyler Prevel.
Not Horses by Natalie Shapiro. What I adore is not horses, with their modern domestic lifespan of 25 years. What I adore is a bug that lives only one day, especially if it's a terrible day. A day of train derailment, or chemical lake, or cop admits to cover up. A day when no one thinks of anything else, least of all that bug. I know how it feels, born as I've been into these rotting times, as into sin. Everybody's busy, so distraught they forget to kill me, and even that won't keep me alive. I share my home, not with horses, but with a little dog who sees poorly at dusk and menaces stumps, makes her muscle known to every statue. I wish she could have a single day of language so that I might reassure her. Don't be afraid. Our whole world is dead, and so can do you no harm.
Our next poet is Lindsay Michaels.
Flaxman by Margaret Fuller. We deemed the secret lost, the spirit gone, which spake in Greek simplicity of thought, and in the forms of gods and heroes wrought. Eternal beauty from the sculptured stone, a higher charm than modern culture known. With all the wealth of metaphysic lore, gifted to analyze, dissect, explore, a many-colored light flows from one sun. Art, 'neath its beams, a motley thread has spun. The prism modifies the perfect day, but thou hast known such mediums to shun, and cast once on life a pure white ray. Absorbed in the creations of your mind, forgetting daily self, my truest self I find. Thank you.
We got a hot mic. Our next poet is Helen Iskander.
I will be reciting London by William Blake. I wander through each chartered street, near where the chartered Thames does flow, and mark in every face I meet, marks of weakness, marks of woe, in every cry of every man, in every infant's cry of fear, in every voice, in every band, the mind for tyrannicals I hear, how the chimney sweepers cry, every blackening church appalls, and the hapless soldier's sigh runs in blood down palace walls. But most, through the midnight streets I hear, how the youthful harlot's curse blasts the newborn infant's tear, and blights with plagues the marriage hearse. Thank you.
Our next poet is Charlie Johnson.
The Chimney Sweeper, A Little Black Thing Among the Snow by William Blake. A little black thing among the snow, crying, "Weep, weep," in notes of woe. Where are thy father and mother, say? They are both gone up to the church to pray. Because I was happy upon the heath, and smiled among the winter's snow, they clothed me in the clothes of death, and taught me to sing the notes of woe. And because I am happy and dance and sing, they think they have done me no injury, and are gone to praise God and his priest and king, who make up a heaven of our misery. Thank you.
Our next poet is Caden Dagon.
Epilogue by Robert Browning. At the midnight, in the silence of the sleep time, when you set your fancies free, will they pass to where by death fools think imprisoned? Lo, he lies who you so loved, whom once loved you, pity me? Oh, to love to be so loved, yet so mistaken. What had I on earth to do with the slothful, with the mawkish, the unmanly? Like the aimless, helpless, hopeless did I drivel, being who? One who never turned his back, but marched breast forward, never doubted clouds would break, never dreamed though right were worsted, wrong would triumph. Held we fall to rise, or baffled to fight better, sleep to wake. No, at noonday in the silence of man's work time, greet the unseen with a cheer. Strive and thrive, cry speed, there fair as ever.
Crossing the Bar by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Sunset and evening star, and one clear call from me. And may there be no moaning of the bar when I put out to sea. But such a tide seems asleep, too full for sound and foam, when thou which drew from out the boundless deep turns again home. Twilight and evening bell, and after that, the dark! And may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from outer bourne of time and place, the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pallet face to face when I have crossed the bar. Thank you.
Our next poet is Jessica Peltz.
Bright star, would I were as steadfast as thou art, by John Keats. Bright star, would I were as steadfast as thou art, not in lone splendor hung aloft the night, and watching with eternal lids apart, like nature's patient, sleepless eremite. The moving waters at their priest-like task of pure ablution round earth's human shores, or gazing on the new soft-fallen mask of snow upon the mountains and the moors. No! Yet still steadfast, still unchangeable, pillared upon my fair love's ripening breast, to feel forever its soft fall and swell, awake forever in a sweet unrest. Still to hear her tender taken breath, and so live ever, or else swoon to death. Thank you.
If you want to go to poetryoutloud.org, the students selected poems from that website, and there are thousands of them. And what I think is really cool is that there are so many different poems on this list. There's not a lot of repeats. And so what these scholars have found was a poem or two poems that spoke to them, that meant something to them. So it's cool to kind of walk around and hear their story of why they picked that poem. And also, I think this is great for either a college interview or a job interview. If they ask, what was the last thing you read? And it's like, oh, well, I read a little Yeats, but I found him boring. And I really like Frost, but, Naomi Shihab Nye is really, who I respond to. And I think they would get a job right away. Next poet is Angela Garafalos.
Eating Poetry by Mark Strand. Ink runs from the corners of my mouth, There's no happiness like mine. I've been eating poetry. The librarian begins. The librarian. The librarian does not believe what she sees. Her eyes are sad and she walks with her hands in her dress. The poems are gone, the light is dim, the dogs are on the basement stairs and coming up. Their eyeballs roll, their blonde legs burn like brush. Their blonde legs burn like brush. The librarian does not. The poor librarian begins to stamp her feet and weep. She does not. The poor librarian. She does not understand when I get on my knees and lick her hand. When I get on my knees and lick her hand, she screams. I am a new man, I snarl at her and bark. I snarl at her and bark. I romp with joy in the bookish dark.
Our next poet is Savannah Fedon.
Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. Some say the world will end in fire. Some say in ice. From what I've tasted of industry. Thank you.
Our next poet is Colum Donnelly.
The Turtle Came to See Me by Margarita Engel. The first story I ever write is a bright crayon picture of a dancing tree. The branches tossed by the wind. I draw myself standing beside the tree with a colorful parrot soaring above me and a magical turtle clasped into my hand and 2 yellow feathers fluttering on the proud shoulders of my ruffled Cuban Rubian dancer's fancy dress. In my California kindergarten class, the teacher scolds me. Real trees don't look like that. It's the moment I first began to learn that teachers can be wrong. They have never seen the dancing plants of Cuba. Thank you.
The next time you draw a tree in my class, I will make sure that it is a dancing tree. All right. Our next poet is Owen Haner.
I will be reciting Hope is the Thing with Feathers by Emily Dickinson. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. The sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity, it asked a crumb of me. Thank you.
The Star by Ann Taylor and Jane Taylor. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. When the blazing sun is gone, when he nothing shines upon, then you show your little light, twinkle, twinkle, all the night. Then the traveler in the dark thanks you for your tiny spark. He could not see which way to go if you did not twinkle so. In the dark blue sky you keep, and often through my curtains peep, for you never shut your eye till the sun is in the sky. 'Tis your bright and tiny spark lights the traveler in the dark. Though I know not what you are, twinkle, twinkle, little star. Thank you.
A little star song in your head as you sang it, right? As was I, so great job. Our next poet is Allison Schulman.
No, I wasn't meant to love and be loved by Mirza Asadullah Khan Ghalib. No, I wasn't meant to love and be loved. If I'd lived longer, I would have waited longer. Knowing you are faithless keeps me alive and hungry. Knowing you faithful would kill me with joy. Delicate are you, and your vows are delicate too. So easily do they break. You are a laconic marksman. You leave me not dead, but perpetually dying. I want my friends to heal me, succor me. Instead, I get analysis. Conflagrations that would make stones drip blood are campfires compared to my anguish. Two-headed, inescapable anguish. Love's anguish or the anguish of time. Another dark, severing, incommunicable night. Death would be fine if I only died once. I would have liked a solitary death. Not this lavish funeral, this grave anyone could visit. You are mystical, Ghalib, and also, you speak beautifully. Are you a saint or just drunk as usual?
Our next poet is Abby Johnson.
Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice.
I think the debate for how the world will end, when they say some say it will end in fire, some say in ice, that's probably one of the greatest debates of our time, second only to, is it pork roll or is it Taylor ham? It's pork roll. I am from North Jersey. I think it's Taylor ham. But I do agree that Central Jersey, where we live, does exist. Taylor roll, that's what it is. Are we ready? Okay. Our next poet is Amanda Sullivan.
The Art Room by Sarah Carmwell. Because we did not have threads of turquoise, silver, and gold, we could not sew a sun nor sky. And our hands became balls of fire, and our arms spread open like wings. Because we had no chalk or pastels, no toad, forest, or grass slates of paper, we had no color for creatures, so we squatted and sprang. 4 young girls, plates heavy on our backs. Our feet were beating drums, drawing rhythms from the floor. Our mouths became woodwinds, our tongues touched teeth, and were reeds. Thank you.
Our next poet is Matthew Milroy.
Kitchen Fable by Eleanor Ross Taylor. The fork lived with the knife and found it hard for years. Took nicks and scratches, not to mention cuts. And she who took Tedium by the ears, non-forthcoming pickles, defiant, stretched out lettuce, soft-screwed particles. And he who come down whack, the conversation even edged. Lying beside him in the drawer, she formed a crazy patina, The season stacked. Melons succeeded by cured pork. He dulled. He was a dull knife. While she was, after all, a fork. Thank you.
Our next poet is Maya Yanchuk.
The Arrow in the Song by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I shot an arrow into the air. It fell to earth, I knew not where. For so swiftly it flew, the sight could not follow in its flight. I breathed a song into the air. It fell to earth, I knew not where. For who has sight so keen and strong that it can follow the flight of song? Long, long afterward, in an oak, I found the arrow, still unbroke, and the song, from beginning to end, I found again in the heart of a friend. Thank you.
Our next poet is Michael Cruz.
The Children's Hour by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Between the dark and the daylight, when the night is begun to lower, come to a pause of the day's occupation that is known as the Children's Hour. I hear in the chamber above me the pattern of the little feet, the sounds of the door that is open, and voices soft and sweet. From my study, I see in the lamplight, descending the broad hall stair, grave Allens and laughing Algeria and F with golden hair. A whisper and then a silence. Yet, I know by their merry eyes, they are plotting and planning together. They take me by surprise. A sudden rush from the stairway, a sudden raid from the hall. By 3 doors left unguarded, they enter my castle wall. Can I have a line? They climb up into the turret. Ordered the arms and back of my chair. When I try to escape, they surround me. They seem to be everywhere. They almost dabbled me with kisses. Can I have another line? Their arms entwine until I think of the Bishop of Benjin and his mouse tower on the rye. Do you think, oh, you little, no, do you think, you blue-eyed Benedict, because you have scale on the wall? Such as a mustache as I am, is not a match for you all. I will have you fast in my fortress and never let it depart. Can I have the last line? But I will put you in the dungeon. And the round tower of my heart. And there I will keep you there forever, yes, forever and a day, till the walls will crumble to ruin and modern in dust away. Thank you.
Our next poet is Dia Patel.
Silence by Thomas Hood. There is a silence where hath been no sound. There is a silence where no sound may be. In the cold grave, under the deep, deep sea, or in the wide desert where no life is found, which hath been mute and still must sleep profound. No voice is hushed, no life treads silently, but clouds and cloudy shadows wander free, that never spoke over the idle ground, but in green ruins and the desolate walls of antique palaces where man hath been, though the dun fox or wild hyena calls, and owls that flit continually between shriek to the echo and the low winds moan. There the true silence is, self-conscious and alone.
And our final poet of the evening, Maxim Shoroykin.
When You Are Old by William Butler. When you are old, you're full of gray, sleep. Can I restart? Oh. When You Are Old by William Butler. When you are old, you're full of gray, sleep, and nodding by the fire, and take this book, and take down this book, and slowly read, and dream of the soft look of your eyes once had. How many loved your moments of How many loved your moments of glad grace, and loved your beauty, love, true or false? But one man loved the pilgrim in your soul, and one man loved the sorrows in your changing face. And bending down beside the glowing bars, murmur, a little sadly, how love fled. And upon the mountains overhead, and hides his face in a crowd of stars. Thank you.
So while the judges are tabulating, I wanted to recite a poem for you from memory, because I never make my students do anything that I wouldn't do myself, and it's scary to get up here, so just one more round of applause for these guys. Public speaking used to be, I think, like the #1 fear, and now I think it might have dropped to #5, but it's still on the top 10 list of most things, fear of speaking in front of people. So I would take any of you in the play right now. Some of you already are in the play. I also, if you welcome to join my public speaking and debate class, because what you did, you are probably the 25 most brave students in this school. So here we go. I did this in class. They did give me notes. So so they checked accuracy. I got maybe like a 7 out of 8. And I started off a little stiff in the beginning. So here we go. The reason why I picked this poem, it's called Invictus by William Ernest Henley. It is my favorite poem, partly because I think it applies to my life. Also, I took a quiz on BuzzFeed, what poem are you? And I got this one 3 times. And so if it's on BuzzFeed and you take a quiz 3 times, I guess it must be true. Here we go. I will be reciting Invictus by William Ernest Henley. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have neither winced nor cried aloud, and under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Among the place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with consequence the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Thank you. right. So now, why we're really here. Let's get these poets up in a line and let's give them a round of applause. So come on up, line up. All right, as they tabulate away. And while they tabulate, you could talk amongst yourselves. Also, over here, we're going to call out third place, second place, and first place. I told the poets they do not have to stand on this wonderful Olympic structure, but it's here if you want. This is third, this is first. Piece of paper. Here we go. Next year we'll have bongos. Okay. In first place with a score of 305 for the third time.